Hello there. Today I'm in the Emirates Lounge in Auckland Airport. I'm about to fly to Europe, and I've discovered that they have two vintages of Leeuwin's Arts Series Shiraz to taste. So that's Leeuwin, they're a Western Australian winery, probably best known for their Arts Series Chardonnay, which is often regarded as Australia's best Chardonnay. Now, the Leeuwin Estate was actually founded in the early 70s, in the period between 1972 and 1973. Evidently, Robert Mondavi, the famous American winemaker from the Napa Valley, was mentoring Dennis and Trisha Hogan as they searched for a site to set up a winery in the Margaret River in Western Australia. And he helped them alight on a former cattle farm, which they purchased in 1973 and then started planting in 1975. So between 1975 and 1978, they planted vines there. In 1978, they took on a winemaker, somebody called Bob Cartwright, who went on to become quite a legendary winemaker in Western Australia, and Bob stayed with them until 2005. Now, the mark of the rapid success of Arts Series Chardonnay is the fact that the estate launched their first vintage in 1979, and in 1981 and 1982, Decanter magazine were enthusiastically recommending Arts Series Chardonnay as one of Australia's leading Chardonnays. Today, a third generation of the Hogan family are involved in the management of the winery, and as well as its incredible success with its Chardonnay, it also makes some probably quite underrated wines from Cabernet Sauvignon, from Riesling, from Shiraz, and also from Sauvignon Blanc. The other thing the Leeuwin Estate is famous for, its annual concerts, where it becomes a venue for some of the world's greatest classical music. Now, 2023 is noted as being a stellar or exceptional vintage for Margaret River, so I'm really quite looking forward to seeing how the wine tastes. Again, like the 2022, this wine is not pure Shiraz. It also has small portions of Viognier and Malbec in it. Now, I'm not given the percentages of those varieties, but I would assume that they are probably somewhere in line with what was done in 2022, where there was 3% of Viognier and 3% of Malbec. And I don't actually know if that Viognier was co-fermented with the Shiraz, but I would assume that is likely. Fruit, as you may remember if you've watched the 2022 vintage video for this, comes off low-yielding, cool climate vineyards such as Stevens Road and Pepe Park. The fruit was all hand-picked, and 80% of it was destemmed and then went through an individual berry selection. I would assume they're probably using an optical sorter to most effectively remove any grapes that are the wrong size, that are damaged, that haven't fully coloured, or whatever parameters the winemakers have chosen for that selection. The remaining 20% goes as whole bunches into the fermentation, meaning that those whole berries will open and split later in the fermentation, continuing to feed sugar into it at the later stage and to give the fermentation some extra vigour. And they say they believe there are two benefits noted from using the whole bunch there. One is sort of brighter fruit, which I assume is a result of this extension of the fermentation, and the other is more savoury characters in the wine as well. Fermentation went on in open top fermenters and in sealed tanks, and there was a daily routine of either in the open top fermenters pushing the cap of skins back down into the fermenting must, or in the tanks of pumping the must back over the cap of skins. Following alcoholic fermentation, the wine was run off into barrel to do its malolactic conversion there, which can help the fruit elements of the wine to better marry with the barrel elements. The oak that was used was entirely French, and there was a mixture of new, second, and third fill barrels. So my assumption is that that was a third new, a third second fill, and a third of that being third fill barrels. The wine stayed as its individual lots in those barrels for 6 months prior to blending. Once blending was complete, the wine went back into barrel and spent another 12 months there, giving it 18 months barrel maturation in total. 2023 was a mild, dry, long growing season, and as I say, the results are seen as being exceptional or stellar. Again, the winery suggests the wine could age for somewhere between 10 and 15 years. So let's see what we make of it, shall we? Looking at the colour, I would actually say this is almost deeper and darker than the 2022, which was already dark. This sort of seems to be more of a black purple. There is the reddish mauve note at the rim, and the wine is labelled as having 13.5% alcohol. It's quite readily throwing tears on the side of the glass there, unsurprisingly. So let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? compared to the 2022, these are much more focused, elegant, savoury and spicy. There is a black fruit there. There's high ripeness, high glycerol, predominantly black cherry, perhaps hints of really black plum or damson. But actually it's quite intense, brooding, concentrated black fruit, just with a sort of a savoury edge. Yes, it's powerful, it's brooding, there's almost a sort of a slight graphite note to it as well. So it's for taste. Compared to the 2022, the fruit seems leaner, more focused. There's a much more pronounced spine of black pepper, fine tannins with cedary notes. But at the same time, that cedary grip is being balanced by some sort of really smooth cocoa, chocolatey notes. They're seen more sort of around the edges of the tongue. The freshness on the 2023 is more apparent. The wine is much more mouth-watering. And again, that's enhancing those sort of cocoa notes. And I'm seeing some elegant red fruit perfumes. Again, sort of cranberries, red currant, that sort of thing. Having said that, once again, all this lovely, juicy red fruit perfume is displaying itself over a backdrop of concentrated black cherry and black licorice fruit. Really quite a dense, concentrated wine. Medium to full-bodied. The alcohol at 13.5% is beautifully imbalanced. You really don't see it showing with the powerful fruit. The freshness of the acidity is much more apparent because it's lifting the fruit so nicely on the mid-palate. The wine's got lovely length, it's got great precision, and where I could see the 92 quite happily lasting for 10 years and probably longer, this is a wine that I think has a capacity to age beyond 15 years, perhaps 20 years. Such is its precision and its elegance. Now, surprisingly, the 2023 has exactly the same aggregated critic score on Wine Searcher as the 2022. Now, that makes no sense to me. I can only think maybe that some of the critics have favoured the power of the 2022 over the elegance of the 2023. To me, this is a wine that has a distinctive step up, and I'd be scoring this wine 94 out of 100. So thank you so much for watching my video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, could I ask you please, could you press the like button? That would be fantastic. And if you are watching these videos and if you enjoy them, do please sign up and make sure that you can set yourself an alert and be notified every time I publish a new video. That way you can't miss any. If you have any friends you think might like to watch the videos, do please feel free to pass it on to them. I'd really appreciate your endorsement in that way. All this would help me to grow the channel. And if you have any comments or any questions, please do pop those in the comments box below. I'd love to know what you think about the wines I'm looking at, the tastings I'm doing, or anything else that relates to that. I'll of course leave a link to the Wine Searcher website for this vintage of this wine, so that you can see where it's available and at what price. So thank you once again for taking the time to watch the video, and I do hope that maybe you'll manage to make some time and come and join me for another video sometime in the near future. Till then,